Hello and welcome back once again to CBR MTG. My name is Angus Mackay and we're back for the Swiss round 3. So we had a little break, jumped to round 4 to watch that beautiful Kess Pile versus Big Red matchup, which was a lot of fun. But now we're back onto round 3 with Gene Holland's We Can Be Heroes and Justin Cheong on Rug Tempo. Tonight I am joined by Philip Nicholson.
Hello.
And Jake Sims.
Hey guys.
So we're doing a little bit of threesies this time, a little bit wet and wild as we like to be. And we do know that both these players have very, very good decks, as was evident in the first top 8 rounds that we watched. But this is them battling it through in the Swiss. So it'll be interesting to see how this matchup pans out. And Gene leading on the Avacyn's Pilgrim, getting swiftly mental misstepped by Justin's Rug Tempo deck. For anyone who doesn't know, Phil, why don't you run us through Gene's deck and sort of how it plays and what we can expect from it in the Swiss rounds?
Yeah, so Gene's We Can Be Heroes deck is a 4-color aggro deck, not playing blue cards. So it's in white, red, black, and green, and playing the kind of 4 on a card of those colors from the commander deck, being Saskia, then Yielding, and really just trying to lead into that card and all the things that it does and attack your opponent and make their life total 0 or less as quickly as possible.
Seems like a righteous strategy. And Justin's playing a sort of the Rug Tempo build that we did see take to all the way down to the finals, utilizing cards such as Tarmogoyf and small cards like Snapcaster Mage and Vendilion Click to sort of get those quick vicious threats on the board while just protecting them remorsefully with cheap and efficient counters.
Rug Tempo is like, I don't want to say a new deck to the format, but something's been printed that really brought it back to resurgence. What do you think has been the real pushing point that has made this like a tier 1 deck?
Yeah, it's interesting how it started, right? Because it started with people have been playing around with it, giving it the red hot go every now and then, but Adelaide Eternal's very own Salve McClinton put out a 7-minute 7-point Highlander deck tech for it. And then that was the last time I saw it in June of last year until I saw it been played by, I think, 3 people at this event. But I think probably the only real new additions was Light Up the Stage, which we saw again in Tim Evers' list that went all the way down to the win at the GP Sydney side event.
He also made top 8 in this event. So,
oh right, yeah. So very, very strong card. Light up the stage. Just a one red mana, draw 2 cards essentially. So definitely saw some power out of them. Definitely saw some power out of those cards. But besides that, just sort of the best of the best in the Rug colors. We see in his hand a counterspell, Lightning Bolt and a Brainstorm. It doesn't get much more pure magic than that.
Yeah, I think that the card does benefit a lot more than your sort of traditional fair deck might from Spellseeker. It finds usually a pretty large number of blue points, some combination of Ancestral Recall and Time Walk, sometimes both, depending on how you've chosen to spend your points, as well as Price of Progress and some other kind of really good burn spells that just give you a lot of adaptability with what otherwise is a card that's often kind of relegated to the unfair decks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just a way to search out your Time Walk seems to be just good enough reason to play it. Also, it puts down a body, so like that's kind of what Tempo really wants to take advantage of, was that sort of 2-for-1 where you can find your Time Walk and then also have something that beats down. Speaking of beating down, we see a new card, Tajek Legion's Edge, coming out of Gene's side. It's a hero and it's aggressive, so it seems like a slam dunk for Gene's deck.
Yeah, it's definitely a very powerful card in aggro decks. Unfortunately, a soldier and not the vastly superior warrior creature deck.
That's right. Tier one deck now. Warriors making quite the splash. But yes, perfect for soldiers. 4-color soldier Stompy if that was ever your inclination.
Saskia herself is also a soldier, so there's 2 cards.
Ooh, there we go. Watch out in future We Can Be Heroes. But the reason that We Can Be Heroes is built the way it is that he is playing Mox Amber and he is playing Condor's Banner, which is both sort of utilizes legendary creatures, and obviously that means that your deck you play them because you are playing a lot of legendary creatures, but also it's nice to have that little benefit of those two those 2 creatures just for those reasons themselves.
He's also spending the point on Caracas, so
Sure.
Got a lot of things that really help out with the legendary synergy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's just good enough. But the Condor's Banner, we saw in the top 8, giving +1/+1 to all creatures with the same creature type as the equipped one, and all ones with the same color. And if you attach it to Saskia, nearly everything in your deck gets a buff, which is very important. At least one of the buffs from the colors, because obviously Saskia being 4 colors. But Human Soldier is also a pretty relevant creature type in this deck for sure. What card are we seeing out of this one?
Saskia. Sorry, that's not Saskia. That's Safi. Safi Aristotle. She's a 2/2 for white green. I believe she's a human scout. And she has Sacrifice Safi to make it so that the next time target creature would die, you bring it back.
Okay.
So
a little bit of extra insurance.
Yeah, she's at her worst, she's a grizzly bear, and at her best, she insulates your bigger bomb creature from a piece of removal, including through a wrath, which is pretty nice.
That is very nice. Yeah. A little bit of extra protection for a very creature-heavy deck, obviously.
Spellseeker isn't going to say no thank you to that.
Yeah, it seems relevant. You don't know how long your Spell Snare will be relevant, especially as it gets into the late game, so you're pretty happy to punch it off on something that will cost you a card later on anyway. Here comes Grim Lovemancer, one of the staples for the aggro format for anyone who is playing an aggro deck who isn't playing Grim Lovemancer. You're clearly doing the wrong thing.
I'm sure the committee's Andrew Vance will be happy to tell you at great length how you have made a mistake by not playing Grim Lovemancer.
Yeah.
Justin seems to have all the answers to everything that Gene is playing. Just Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, Spell Snare, everything, and he's got a Counterspell and Jace back in hand.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely going to try and set himself up for a situation where he can play Jace and protect it in the same turn. But yeah, I mean that's exactly what the tempo deck's trying to do, right? Like you just one mana or 2 mana answers to all of your opponent's threats. Like here's just a neat little counterspell to stop. Not sure what we would stop in this situation. Depending on his hand, he might be looking at that Izzet Charm, but maybe just even some sort of card advantage in the form of Brainstorm or something, just to kind of get something happening, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's also important that in a matchup like this, where you're playing against a full-on aggro deck, as the tempo deck, you're almost always going to be taking a bit more of a control approach than you might otherwise. And the fact that Justin hasn't drawn any threats is definitely helping him do his best job at pretending to be just a traditional control deck.
Yeah.
And just answering everything Gene is doing until he can try and turn the corner with a Jace.
We see end of turn fetch for a breeding pool, which is not something that you often see in Eternal formats, but in Highlander you basically have to play the shocks and you have to play the duels. So you put yourself in a situation where sort of in Legacy and Vintage you're less inclined to fetch end of turn because the thinning your deck aspect is not as important as having a shuffle effect for your Brainstorm or your Ponder or your Preordain, you know. But in Highlander, you have to kind of find out when it's better to fetch shock end of turn or leave it up to try and get a dual land later.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting in this situation because Justin does have the Brainstorm in the form of Jace the Moon Sculptor, but obviously he was only sitting on 3 mana and needed to fetch to cast Jace at all. And you know, if he draws a land for turn and plays it so that he can cast Jace and still have the fetch, he doesn't actually get many cards out of it.
Yeah.
So just fetching end of turn, it's pretty reasonable there.
It seems fine, yeah. You would have to top deck a land to make the shuffle effect work in your favor, so seems to be pretty reasonable for him. He's I don't know exactly whether or not he's deciding to tick up to protect his Jace, but it looks like he's just going to go straight for the Brainstorm. It's hard to get away from the Brainstorm when you're playing Jace because it's just so much good card advantage and card selection, you know.
Yeah, he's definitely incentivized to not tick Jace down against a creature with dash.
Absolutely, yeah. That would be a bad thing.
It would tie up Gene's mana because Zergo. It's a bit weird because Zergo is one of the only cards that gets played that actually has dash, but a lot of dash cards cost less to dash than their casting cost, whereas Zergo actually costs more. So there would be situations in which you might want to just bounce Zergo to tie up your opponent's mana, but Gene isn't sitting on very many cards in hand, so that's not really a necessary thing to do here.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't be too upset with ticking up Jace targeting Jane's deck, considering he's only got a couple of cards in hand, and it seems pretty reasonable that one of them would be a removal spell. Now he has 0 cards in hand, and because he has all the mana, he has 4 mana, which in an aggro format is basically all the mana in the world, and 1 card in hand. I think Justin was probably pretty safe to tick up, but he looks like he's just trying to get as much card advantage as he can while he has the opportunity before Gene sort of runs him out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, if Gene had the burn spell or something like that to finish off Jace, he would have kind of thrown it off there. So ticking up Jace keeps him out of range of Zergo, and if Gene was going to top deck some way to kill Jace, you can just put it on the bottom of his library. Gene does have access to a shuffle effect with the Arid Mesa for if you do tuck a card on the bottom, but that doesn't actually change the chance of drawing a live card that much.
Yeah, for sure.
It just puts 1 more live card back in your deck if the card that's bottomed was live, so it usually doesn't matter too much.
Yeah, that's true.
Here we see James having a crack at Jason Mind Sculptor in response to Justin is going to crack that Scalding Tarn. I assume he's going to slam down that Vidalian Click. Who he's going to target, who can say? But yeah, just protecting that Jace at all costs in this kind of matchup is...
What's Justin's last card in hand? I think it was
it's a Remanded Mountain and a Vidalian Click.
Okay, sure. So he might be actually incentivized to target himself in this instance, because he knows that Jane's not really playing anything that's important, but he seems to have gone for his just to have a look at what's his opponent's hand. Speaking of new cards, here comes Judith the Scourge Diva, a legendary human shaman that gives everything +1/+0, and then gives you a ping when another creature dies, non-token creature
that you control.
So
I think that there's no reason for Justin to target himself here. He's happy to spend 2 mana on Remand. It's something that Gene casts and cantrip off of it, which is basically the same as if he cleats it away, so he doesn't have to spend mana. But he also makes Gene spend mana on whatever's being remanded.
Sure.
And at this stage, Justin has kind of the spare mana to just throw a remand at whatever, just to cantrip. Particularly if Gene happens to cast a 3-drop or something like that, it's just fantastic for Justin to keep that remand.
Absolutely. We see I managed to change the deck name from Justin to Rug Control because I knew he was on tempo, and then I didn't see a threat for so long that I was like, oh, maybe he's actually playing Rug Control.
Jace the Mind Sculptor does actually have a -12. So it is technically a threat.
Sure. I didn't think about it like that. But as soon as I saw the V-click, I was like, it's probably control. And then I see a Goblin Guide later in the game, and I'm like, now I don't know what to think.
Should have stuck to your guns there, eh?
Yeah, that's right. But Justin knows best. We'll see what comes out of Jane's side with this crack fetch. I think he only has Conda's Banner and Judith in hand, so...
Well, he had a Shriekmaw before, right? I don't think anything's... He had Shriekmaw
that's true,
when Judith was tucked away, so...
Yeah, so he's still got the Shriekmaw.
Yeah, so this is exactly why Justin wants to hang on to the remand. Gene goes for the Cracker Fetch Renegade Rallier play and gets pretty severely punished by a remand.
Which means that he won't have remand again next turn unless he finds something for it. So that was actually the perfect play. Like, he heard you into the future with your sick tech keeping the remand in hand, and he decided that was a good enough idea to keep.
Well, he also might just be better at Magic than me. He's the one who made top 8.
Yeah, he did very well this day, and as evidenced by the powerful amount of cards that he has in his hand compared to his opponent. He still hasn't quite laid down a threat, but he's pretty sufficiently stopped Jane from having a good time, which is one of the crucial points of Magic,
Yeah, it does also have a nice little thing here with Goblin Guide, because Goblin Guide is a lone threat here, would have to take 7 turns to kill Gene all by himself. But with Jace the Mind Sculptor, you can, if you want to, you can uptick and kind of know if you'll make your opponent draw a card with that Goblin Guide attack, which is it's a nice bit of information if you are upticking Jace. It's just kind of free to know.
Yeah.
Will my opponent get a card out of this?
Absolutely. And going the opposite way as well, you can attack I think you said it the opposite way around, but you can attack and then decide whether or not you want to bottom it with Jace.
Yeah, exactly.
Post combat.
If you see something particularly dangerous, you can tick Jace off instead of brainstorming, depending on what kind of situation you're in, whether you feel like you're on the front foot or the back foot.
Yeah, exactly. So now he'll probably be more incentivized to play his tick up his Jace or activate his Jace at all in his post combat main phase after he has a little peek at what's on top of Jane's library, and that. Champion of the Parish is not exactly what Justin's scared of right now, I don't think. A 1-1 for 1 at this point, probably not good enough.
Well,
I'm sorry, I can't help myself, Angus. I just noticed the deck name changed again just to remind you. I can't give up. I'm not going to guess what he's on anymore.
That's right. I wasn't game enough to change it back to Rug Tempo just in case I was triple wrong, but you can't be wrong with Rug.
I think that confusing Angus, it turns out, is just part of being a rug player. You might even say it is the rug line.
That's right, and that seems completely reasonable as well. Well,
Snapcaster Maze,
just
counterspell, that Renegade Rallier.
That's an interesting counterspell art. Possibly a GP promo or something like that. I don't think I've seen that one before. It's definitely not the one where the dude has the finger out with the magic sort of slowly falling out of his fingertips.
I use dual deck Chase vs Chandra counterspell because I have no taste, so I can't tell you what art that one is. But just an opting to counterspell the Renegade Rallier there keeps a body off, and it also makes the Parish stay as champion of the Parish stay as a 1/1, so it can't profitably block Goblin Guide. It could block the Snapcaster Mage, but it's just going to die to a Fire Ice either, so...
Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. And Fire Ice getting a lot of play this weekend as well. I did see a few copies, just as we mentioned in a previous video, modal spells are good. Who would have thunk it? But also Fire is particularly modal as well because it's it can go one at face, one at creature, or one at each creature. Like having the 2 damage divided as you choose makes it so much more versatile as a card.
Can also finish off low planeswalkers, which is really nice.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you can also put kind of excess damage at your opponent's face with the rules change. You didn't used to be able to do that because of the weird way burn spells worked, but now you can 1 your planeswalker and 1 your face,
opponent.
Which is it always felt bad to put too much burn into your opponent's planeswalker, but Fire Ice doesn't have to do that, which is pretty nice.
Yeah. I mean, I think overall, it definitely made the rules interactions a whole bunch easier. But there was a couple of losses like Chandra Tick Up and Fiery Confluence, which you couldn't redirect. Which you could redirect to Planeswalkers.
Definitely a lot of cards that lost out on the rules change, and it's just nice to highlight cards like Fire Ice and Forked Bolt that actually won out instead.
Yeah, absolutely. Good job, Wizards. I think was the overall. But we did get a peek at Jin's hand with the help of Gitaxian Probe. I think Justin feeling pretty confident right now at his at least game 1 win here. But they both made it into the top 8, so it's anyone's guess who makes the match for this one.
Is that an Ice Scepter?
This one
that is Conda's banner.
Yeah.
Okay. Excuse me.
So it's as I mentioned before, it gives a buff to creatures that share the same type with the legendary creature that it's attached to, and also the color as well. So you can make all of your creatures very, very, very large. But here comes Shriekmaw, full price, no doubt.
Yeah, no evoking that one here.
Yeah, I think at this point you'll just take the ETB as just a small upside because at the moment he just wants to get it on the battlefield, and may as well do it now. When you can stop Goblin Guide from attacking and kill a Snapcaster Mage seems pretty reasonable when you're at 4 life.
On a side note, Jane's mana base has been doing a lot of damage to him. Obviously, fetches are part of the format, but that lone mana confluence has done 4 or 5 points of damage to himself just on its own. So not helping him out there. But
Definitely
if you're going to play a 4-color deck, I guess that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I think he has a couple of rainbow lands in his deck, but yeah, it's just part of the course. I think you'll have to just make those considerations.
Yeah, I mean when you're playing a 4-color deck with so many kind of colored symbols in casting costs, sometimes you just have to accept that cards like Mana Confluence or City of Brass are a bit of a necessary evil. We see
that's the life they chose.
Justin closing out game 1 with a nice pair of burn spells.
Yeah.
And
how do we feel about the sideboards?
Do you want? I'll start with Gene.
Yeah, for sure.
Gene's looking at Ancient Grudge, Choke, Containment Priest, Aethersworn Canonace, Faramir Carve, Fiery Covenant, Grafdigger's Cage, Ozov Pontiff, Pyroblast, Qasali Primage, Red Elemental Blast, Remorseful Cleric, Thorn of the Anarchist, Vindicate, and Zealous Persecution. Is there anything that jumps out at you guys that just a Windmill Slam bring-ins?
I really like Ozov Pontiff and Zealous Persecution. Lots of X1s in Justin's deck, but you can almost certainly assume, although he hasn't seen it yet, that there'll be some sort of true name hiding around in that list.
Yeah, the Pyroblast and the Red Elemental Blast, of course, they come in.
True name and/or Young Pyromancer as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Thorn of Amethyst is actually really good here. It's almost certainly primarily in the sideboard to hedge against decks like Storm.
Yep.
But against a deck like Rogue, where you're playing your Ponders and your Preordains and your counterspells, making all those things cost one more can really make the blue deck's life significantly harder than they want it to be. So I think that's a bit of a card that you might want to bring in that might not be as obvious as something like Red Elemental Blast.
Yeah, absolutely. On Justin's side, we have Braid, Anger of the Gods, Arc Trail, Blue Elemental Blast, Destructive Revelry, Flusterstorm, Hydroblast, Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast, Relic of Progenitus, Seed Time, Submerge, Sylvan Library, Tormoid Script, and Trigon Predator.
Braid and Anger of the Gods. Snap includes.
Yeah, seems reasonable.
I mean, there's a lot of good stuff here. So Arc Trail is also great. The Blue Blast is fine. He didn't see any targets for Destructive Revelry game 1, but he could definitely assume that there's some kind of equipment in Gene's deck.
Yeah, it's also good to hedge against your opponent's hate pieces as well. If your opponent does bring in like City of Solitude or Choke or something, which they might not, but it's still cards that exist, you might want to just hedge against that.
I think then you got a couple of blue blasts. Really, the only other thing that I would be looking at here is the Submerge, which is a pretty great card against enemy green decks with creatures in it, and definitely one of my personal favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good sideboard card to get rid of a lot of different threats.
When I first ever got into Legacy, I chose my deck list based on which had the most Submerges in the sideboard.
And which one was that?
Well, it was just different versions of Infect. But...
Sure.
I would really like to see Seed Time come in as well. That'd be great.
Well, it doesn't seem very good when your opponent isn't playing Blue Instance, but
maybe
if Justin goes for the 400 IQ play of getting his spell Mental Misstepped by Gene, it might work out.
Now we're talking. Yeah, the secret sideboard plan of 5 or 6 islands and then some counter spells is also a thing that Justin could be playing around.
Yeah, definitely.
But we unfortunately, Jake, we didn't see the sideboard staple Seed Time in a different matchup where Justin was hanging out. But seems like a really fun card.
Yeah,
and something that I would love to play myself. In fact, have played before in a very, very, very bad Time Walk deck. It was a lot of fun.
Taking more turns than your opponent is typically quite fun.
Yeah, that's right. I like just the idea of taking your opponent's turn, but like not taking control of it, just like snatching it away for yourself, It's like preventing your opponent from playing as much Magic as possible.
Yeah, because the less Magic they play, the more Magic you play.
That's exactly right. Going into our opening hands now, I see a Harsh Mentor and a couple of lands, and I think a Vindicate in his hand as well. Is probably a reasonable keep. I'm not sure about the other cards in his hand, but looks like he's got a lot of really fast, aggressive creatures, as his deck is likely to have. On Justin's side, I see that Fire and Ice back at it again, and just a couple of lands here and there. I think maybe even the Regrowth on the far right, but we'll see more about it. Here comes the Anger of the Gods, which will be very beneficial later on in the game.
I believe Justin's also seeing on a Tarka's Command. I think that's the third card, which it's not great, in this exact board state, but definitely helps him later down the line. Definitely helps him to close out a game if he ever gets ahead, or just potentially a blowout series of blocks, giving his whole board +1/+1 coupled with something like a Young Pyromancer.
Yeah,
is pretty horrific to face down.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting having to play around combat tricks, but Tarka's Command, Zealous Persecution, these sorts of cards can really ruin your day when you're not planning for them,
Yeah, I think that card on the far left of Justin's hand is True Nemesis as well.
Okay.
Which is, usually pretty fantastic against the aggressive decks because they don't want to attack into it and have their creatures die. So they're usually looking for one of a pretty limited number of answers or a pretty overwhelming board to actually be able to beat through a true name effectively.
Yeah, your options for beating a true name nemesis are literally try and race or try and find the 1 or 2 sideboard cards that Angus told you to bring in before. And sometimes you just can't be so lucky. So here comes a Harsh Mentor, but Justin is going to fetch and response, as seems to be the correct line, considering Harsh Mentor does hit your opponent's lands. So it's just going to get a stomping ground here tapped, and then it looks like a pretty good start from Jane. I mean, Izamaru is underplayed absolute bloody powerhouse with the 1 mana 2/2.
Well, it is just a 1 mana 2/2. It doesn't have any text other than that.
Except for all of the flavor text.
It does have an awful lot of flavor text, I will give you that.
Also a legendary creature.
Yeah, that's legendary creature, Hound, because of course Magic the Gathering needs hounds, wolves, and just, every kind of mammal under the sun.
Fox as well, yeah.
But all birds are the same.
Sucks. Also, Sharktopus is a fish, not a shark.
Yeah, it's pretty tragic.
Absolute travesty.
Sable is a creature type for the card Bronze Sable and nothing else. Fish and birds get to have a sad time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with enough automated automatons and metallic mimics, you can have any tribal deck, including sabers.
That is true. You could play Tribal Sable. I wouldn't recommend it because Bronze Sable's not very good. But you certainly could do it.
This is a list of things you could do. That. And also a little bit of card advantage from Jane's side. I mean, the card choice, the card advantage that you get is very limited when you get in sort of the aggro formats, because you're just trying to put, 20 power on the board and then try and kill your opponent with it. But having a Skull Clamp will be very, very good for him, because it kind of hedges against removal, as well as if he has any X ones, he can just opt to kill them. But it's nice to just put one on top of a Harsh Mentor, and then if it dies, good. If it doesn't die, great. It becomes a 3/1.
Yeah, it's pretty much a win-win situation. Some people might be watching and thinking, why wouldn't he clamp the champion of the parish and draw the cards? But in this situation, he's just trying to punch through as much damage as possible. He's not looking necessarily to draw cards, and by putting it on the Harsh Mentor, he kind of guarantees either damage or cards.
Yeah.
Depending on what happens.
So it's really a win-win situation.
Yeah, we did see Justin ice down the Harsh Mentor for the tempo play.
Interesting that he didn't decide to just kill the Harsh Mentor in response to the Skull Clamp activation, but I mean, it's probably just a means to an end.
Well, he was sitting on Anger of the Gods, so there's just no need to.
That is definitely a reason to. Also, it doesn't die, right?
Exactly, because Anger of the Gods exiles, so it's pretty good against Skull Clamp. But that is Justin's only Anger of the Gods, unless he regrowths it or Snapcaster Mages it. So,
which isn't impossible, because he is playing both those cards.
He is playing both of those cards, but it does mean that the way is a bit more clear for Gene to try and get some value out of that Skull Clamp.
Yeah, but if there was any time to overextend, probably now is the time. Just after an opponent played a board wipe, you can try and rebuild as fast as possible so you can continue to punch through some damage.
Yeah, he wasn't in an unfortunate situation there where he had kind of played out a 3-drop. I don't know if he just didn't have a 2-drop or a 1-drop in hand that he could kind of run out and also put a clamp on at the same time.
Judith's pretty good once she gets going, but because she's a lord, you're definitely much more incentivized to play her after you play your other creatures.
Definitely, and it also means that if Justin has, more spot removal to get rid of all your creatures, he can run that off against Judith, maybe even in response to a clamp activation, which just isn't really where you want to be.
Yeah, exactly. I think Jane's probably... He's doing okay. I mean, he still has cards in hand and he has the clamp. He does have a Vindicate for... probably considering Jace if it ever comes down, or just sort of he has the option of taking down really anything. But Justin just has so many cards in hand, he's probably feeling pretty okay.
Almost anything. He is true.
Yeah, that's right. Vindicate does not kill True Name Nemesis. And I assume True Name Nemesis is on blocking duty now for probably the rest of the game, which, as we mentioned before, is pretty backbreaking for those aggro decks.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in, certainly at the moment, one of those situations where True Name Nemesis is secretly a 3-mana version of Moat.
Yeah.
Judith just can't really attack into that. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
you could clamp Judith and attack and try and draw 2 cards, but that's a pretty desperate line that you
Oh,
only
yeah.
really take if you don't have many other options. But I mean, I just don't know what other options Gene has at this point. He can run out this Lasher, which Justin is going to go ahead and read.
Good
she's
commander card. Very
she's
popular commander card.
a nice 3/2 with first strike, and when she attacks, you can pay 2, both of which are hybrid white-black, and get a creature with, I believe it's converted mana cost 2 or less back from your graveyard.
No, it's
Power
power.
2 or
Yes.
Power 2 or less.
That's how you abuse the
Right,
card,
from
because you get
your-
back Siege Gang Commander and Revelark and
Sure.
Shriekmaw and stuff.
Well, Shriekmaw has 3 power.
Oh,
Shriekmaw's
does
a 3/2.
Oh my god.
With
Broken.
fear.
Broken.
Yeah.
Absolute travesty. But yeah,
Clearly, you've never played Living End.
this is so sad. Alesha being one of those sneaky Tarkir block commanders that have its color identity is Mardu, although it is a red card.
Yeah.
Same with Tasga and Soulfire Grand. No, not Soulfire Grandmaster.
Shu Yuan Silent Tempest.
There we go.
Also, Yasova Dragonclaw.
There you go.
And whatever the other one is that I've forgotten.
All of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think just trying to play around with some of the mechanics, Wizards trying something new. But Alesha, definitely a very powerful commander card. But in Eternal formats, there's no rules, so we're seeing it in a Highlander game right at this very moment. A lot of powerful in here. Incinerary Flow. That's another exile card.
effects.
Yeah, it's pretty tragic that Justin just kind of has all these.
Oh god, we're just not seeing any benefit from this poor Skull Clamp. Like, we're not even going to get a ping from Judith at all.
I don't remember what the Abzan one's called, but it came into play with a bunch of counters on it, and you could move them around. Dagatar the Adamant, I believe.
Oh yeah, cool.
Sounds right.
Yeah. Well, a very powerful cycle of cards and a lot of fun.
Some of them were. Some of them were Tasiga, and the rest of them, I struggle to remember what they're called. So.
Yeah, but some of them were Tasiga, which is important.
That's true.
But yeah, so Trinidad actually going to take the offensive now. I think Justin probably just pretty happy to just beat face while he has the chance. He's all tapped out now, so he can't really do.
He's sitting on Submerge. So he's definitely pretending to be all tapped out.
Right. I did think that was Counterspell, but yeah, so it looks like there's Submerge. Probably going to make Gene very sad. This is classic tempo play, so you're just trying to make your opponent sad.
Yeah, you always kind of make them want to feel that if they could just get one thing to resolve or one creature through, everything would be fine. But it just kind of never really happens, and sort of the traditional kind of win state for these Eternal tempo decks is that you have your opponent on 0 life and you've got no cards in hand and they've still got everything, but they could just never find the time to deploy it.
Yeah. And yeah, we did see the use of this Submerge. Submerge being such a good tempo play because not only does it remove the creature from combat and from the battlefield, but it screws up your opponent's next draw as well.
Yeah, it definitely can if you're tucking away something that doesn't have haste or a kind of immediate board impact like that one. It's sort of one of these slow, more grindy creatures like the Judith. Submerging is just incredible, and Justin's also going to be able to run out a Chandra Torch of Defiance here if he wants to, which really tightens that clock.
Oh yeah. Chandra dealing 2 damage a turn. Not too long before she reaches her ultimate, so Gene's got to try and find something to close out this game, but unfortunately he's in top deck mode, and Justin is very close to top deck mode, but still the board presence is hugely different.
Justin also just has him dead with the Attackers command.
Oh, that'll do it as well.
And Jane has no cards in hand, so assuming Justin remembers to cast his cards, he'll probably win this game.
Yeah, but sometimes it's fun to just take up Chandra for the rest of the game.
I mean, you can take up Chandra too. There's no reason to not take up Chandra before you cast your Attackers command and win.
That's true. So Attackers command, is it double strike?
No, it's +1/+1 and reach.
Okay.
Deal 3 damage to your opponent. Your opponent can't gain life this turn, or put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. You have to pick 2. So if he chooses the Lightning Bolt and pump the team, that'll mean exactly 7 damage with him.
Or he could put a land onto the battlefield.
He definitely could, which would certainly be the way to assert your dominance, given that you already have a Chandra in place, so you're going to win anyway.
I don't think I've ever seen someone select that mode.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is a good way to punk your opponent when they're on 3 life and you go, put a land into play, and then you have no lands to put into play.
That is definitely the double bad manners maneuver.
Yeah. Before Jade has a chance to adjust his life total, Justin says, "Oh, one more thing," and then goes for the Otaku command. So pretty convincing defeat from Justin over to Gene. But yeah, so they're both going to make it into the top 8. Spoiler alert for anyone who's already watched the 3 top 8 videos that we have on our channel already. But if you haven't, please feel free to check them out. But both these players, very capable, very powerful decks, go down to the top 8. But this is still round 4, so round 3, so many more Swiss to come. So please stay tuned, and we'll see you for the next round.